Boom. There we go. And admit everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Hello,
It's,
we need to have like a theme song. Hello,
I
hello.
know,
It's time to
not
draw. We
inclined.
don't. Jennifer Woodward is not having any of it. Thumbs down. Sorry, Megan. My bad. Not Jennifer Woodward. I don't know who Jennifer Woodward is. Who cares?
My mom.
Yeah, that's your mom. Well, you know what? I'm sure she's just a lovely person as well. Yeah, I want everybody to just take a moment, take a deep breath, find your inner animal, and have a look at Eden Barber, who has decided to show us their true selves today.
I know.
It's for those of you who
Outside
don't
of that.
know, Eden is actually a character from Jupiter Ascending. They
Mhm.
are a cat person.
Yeah, yeah. Or a Final
I
Fantasy.
love that for you, bestie. Is Ginger your bestie?
I want Ginger to be my bestie.
You do. Never mind.
I do.
Who
Caleb,
wouldn't
will you
love
please
Ginger?
be co-host by chance?
I will do that.
I crave power.
Well, you know what? Cosplay to class day when? Lauren.
That would be so
Cosplay.
fun. I think it's fun when people dress up on camera. I saw something in quarantine of a woman who was like a kindergarten teacher and she dressed up like a crazy outfit every day and the kids were super into it and it like just got more interacting. I think, I don't know, I was into it. If you've got the energy, do it or be lazy and just wear cat ears like me.
Lauren, cosplay class day every day. Let's do this whenever you want. Because
Yeah.
there are no rules. It's just right. Outback Steakhouse. For those of you in other countries, I'm sorry, that's just the name of a terrible restaurant in America. Brianna Young, welcome back. Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back. Brianna's digging my theme song. Are you wearing a freaking Powerline shirt? That's what I.
Yes.
We've got. This is the right class for all of us. I think this is something that we all deserve. Devani,
Love
I don't know what you're doing. Take it up. You're doing great. All of you are
Bonnie's got
doing
great
fantastic.
lighting. Very
Right?
natural. Looks
Everybody's just Levi. You look like a bad guy in like a spy movie, and I'm kind of digging it. So keep it up.
I like it.
Yep. No, I dig it. It's all good. Don't change a thing. All right. So, drawing for animation and illustration. Let's talk about it a little bit. You guys rocked the house. Those of you that turned in your homework this past week, I have had such a blast going over all of it and sending comments. I haven't gotten to all of you yet because there were just so much fun things to say. But to be honest with you, I just love Dream Warrior. I'm so glad to finally see your face. I'm just so insanely happy with the degree of risk taking that I see present in that folder. Eden, I feel like you can you agree.
I do agree. I'm in fact pulling them up in front of my face right now.
There is some crazy good beautiful stuff here. I'm gonna share my screen real fast so you guys can take a look at it. And we've got here. Let me take a look. Let me show this.
Oh, real quick before I forget, and you're bringing this up, Larissa did post on the Discord, I think like 2 days ago, really wanting your guys' feedback about the classes. And I know that she especially would really, really appreciate getting feedback because this is her business and she loves it and, wants to make it good for you guys and future students.
Yes, thank you so much for reminding me about that, Edie. If you've never taken an art class before, if this is like your 800th art class, uh, Eden and Larissa really wants to hear your feedback about she's posted a bunch of questions, basically like, what do you like about the class? What do you wish were different? What's the kind of stuff that you would like to see in the future that OC Art Studios doesn't yet provide? think about that sort of stuff, and just send, like, it doesn't need to be an essay, but like a paragraph or two with your thoughts and critique. Anything at all is super duper valuable. So if you get a second, just drop her a note. That'd be super great. And just put it into the little folder that's in the Discord. It's really, really helpful for us to turn this into a really great and powerful art tool that as many people as possible uh, can benefit from. All right, so as you can see, we got a bunch of really, really fun uh, expressions. Let's start. Well, I've put a bunch of comments on some of these. Let me start with you know what? Let's start with the one that has like 4 different entries. That would be David Steenblock's Space Cat. So Space Cat here. Now I already put a bunch of comments in here. You can ignore it if you like. Uh, as you can see, simple geometry, right? Um, this is sort of like the sketch phase of Space Cat. Uh, there's obviously some, I feel like David's sort of like moving back and forth between convex and concave. But to be honest with you, I feel like there's a lot of really fun experimentation going on here. Seriously, I just love the fact that everybody is so darn different. Um, I do feel like some of these need to be a little bit more elastic, but this is just the sketch phase. Wait till you see what David did when things are getting a little bit more polished. It's kind of crazy. There's a huge jump. I'm not exactly sure how much space like went in between this iteration and the next, or in the previous one rather. But I mean, look at it. There is so much stuff. I mean, the mouth looks more elastic. The facial shapes look a little bit more like they have mass, like um, they're turned shapes, like they're actually being drawn through, like they actually have, they're sculptural, you know? And not only that, but they're fun and asymmetrical, and there's a lot of really fun things to say about each of these. And the more that David does these, the better they become. Mileage makes a big, big difference.
Yeah, I really
Uh,
love the cleanness of the lines.
it's
Super
very
fun.
clean. It doesn't need to be clean, but I do feel like whatever uh, went in between, like the sketch phase and this, David did a really, really strong job. It's clear that they had an idea of what they wanted at the end, and it looks like they were achieving it. Here's Spacey. Oh my God. I make the
Hello.
jokes around here, guys. Where's David? There you are. Nice job, David. Really, we were just giving you some props for this really
Oh,
fun, these really great iterations. I dropped some comments in there, so if you didn't really miss a whole lot, if you came
oh,
in a
okay.
little late.
No, I was hungry. I was just grabbing my hot dogs. So.
Do it. Grab those hot dogs. We stand Space Cat. Yeah, no, this is very, very clean. A lot of you guys did some really clean stuff too. Let's look at something a little sketchier first, though, before we get into that. Let's look at somebody I haven't really had a chance to. I looked at Levi's. Manushi. I haven't had a chance to really look at this one yet. I really, really like this. I do feel like a couple of these could be a little bit more um, staggered with the camera. I feel like it could be a little bit more tilted. A lot of these tend to be, you know, kind of level with the camera. Um, but there are some of these like wonder, sad, pain, disappointed, where there is some obvious tilting going on and a little bit more drawing through your shapes. It looks a little bit more sculptural as a result, less theatrical, more cinematic, as Larissa would say. And I really, really like where, like, with pain and sadness and wonder, it looks like you're starting to express yourself in terms of like squash and stretch. Some of these are a little bit more static than others. They're beautiful, but at the same time, I feel like they could be pushed a little bit further. Anyway, that's my small little comment or suggestion. Eden, what do you think?
There we go. I had to
There you
unmute myself. Yeah, I think same comments. I know that the turning is really hard at first. I think I even struggle with it when I'm drawing and designing all of my new characters because you kind of just have to get used to how that character like turns and rotates. But the thing I like about these and the thing I like about pretty much everybody's submission is I think the consistency as well. Like you're still figuring out this character, but to me it looks like the same character throughout all of the expressions, which something I struggled with a lot in the beginning. So I think when people kind of get it off the bat, it's like, yes, you have basically the hardest part done. Now you just need to kind of figure out the math of the drawing when it comes to turning.
I totally 100% agree. I feel like everybody was doing really, really strong work. Devani, you said you were having issues with consistency. We'll check that out in a second. But to be honest with you, I really feel like everybody was really putting their best foot forward as far as like trying to keep their shapes, the head shapes especially, nice and consistent, regardless of how much squash and stretch. You were actually doing a lot of really good job, and I brought this up a lot, mapping where the features go. Like it's, and I talk about this in other classes, and I haven't really talked about it in this one. The size and shape of the eyes, nose, mouth is really not that big a deal when it comes to achieving likeness and similarity between facial expressions. What is much more important is getting the space in between them uh, nice and consistent. Literally, like we did. There was an exercise I did once with character design, where all I gave, I basically made everybody use like keyboard letters and numbers for features, um, and but what they really needed to do was make sure the shapes, or sorry, the empty space in between, like the eyes and the nose and the lips and stuff like that, were about the same, and you could still tell the difference between like a Christopher Walken and a Robert De Niro, even if you were just using ABCD for the actual shapes themselves. It was really quite cool. Um, let's see, Devani, you felt like you
Yeah,
were
it looks
having
like
a
it
little.
did.
Why am I having trouble finding you?
In the D's, maybe? Yeah, it's Devani right next to David's, right next to Space
What's
Cat.
wrong with me? Oh, there we go. No, I disagree. It's not the consistency that I felt like was the issue here. I felt like your consistency was actually pretty good. It was, again, the same sort of comment uh, that I gave Manushi in the last one, is that it's very sort of, it's still kind of theatrical. You know, we still have sort of like a three-quarter view for the most part in each of these, and the head is turning a little bit, but it needs to dip. You know, we need to have some tilting going on with the shapes and the geometry. It's, you could still take bigger risks, is what I'm trying to say. You're not hiding. We have no power, Jody. You have more power than you think you do, Jody. Sorry. Um, but yeah, no, I get what you're saying. You felt like you were struggling a little bit with consistency. Do not worry about that. It comes with mileage. In fact, let me see if I can. I'm going to do a quick little doodle over Devani's, and I wanted to do one over Darlena's as well. Darlena had this really lovely character right here.
Character is
You know,
adorable.
again, yeah, beautiful. You can tell it's the same. It's very, very simple mark making. It is consistent. I still feel like though it's still a little theatrical. I Taiwan class. I don't know what that is. Is it a TV show? I'll say it's a TV show. Well, exactly. Braven's kind of hit the nail on the head here. You can super fixate on how one looks slightly different, but what's more important is that they look clear. You know, you don't have to worry about, you know, these aren't decals. You don't have to get them super duper perfect. What you need to do is try to make sure that they look clear, and and consistency isn't about perfection. It's more about like it's really about the empty space in between the features, as I just said, rather than getting it right every single time. All right, so so it's 2:15 right now. Let me jump over to Photoshop real fast. and I will show you guys just a really quick little doodle, a draw over for Devani and for Darlena here. If we didn't reach your drawing during the last couple of minutes, do not worry. We will, or if you haven't received any feedback yet, we will get to your drawing. It's just we've got today's lecture is big, so I want to make sure I give myself plenty of time to talk all about composition, because that's what that's the subject we're going to be tackling. All right, so let's take a look at this real fast. To be honest with you, I love this character a lot. Spud has entered the chat. So what can we do? What's that? You know what? Let's try what's that smell?
Smell face is always a good one.
Smell face. Exactly. I love me some smell face. Who doesn't?
There's a lot of possibilities with smell.
Okay, so I'm going to try and keep it about the same. Let me turn this up just a hair. All right, so there's lots of possibilities with smell faces. But if you can, let me see if I can try and make it a little bit easier for you. First off, you need to figure out where the bias is going to be on your face. So it looks, I'm going to try and use the kind of guide that Devani has left for me. I'm just going to put some quick little placeholders for the shapes. And the glasses. Well, you know what? Let me hold off on the glasses, because even though they are important, I want to make sure that the real estate underneath them is a little clearer. All right, so I'm drawing this nice and big. We got the ears. Remember, the ears, the top of the ears typically come around like either the brow line or the eye. The nose is going to be kind of squished up, because there's going to be, like, what is that? Somebody burnt their chicken nuggets. So we've done some squash on one side, and so a little bit of stretch on the other. And what I tend to like to do is do something similar with the mouth. You know, if let me bring my tools back here. You know, if one side is compressed, it should be compressed on both sides, and the other side should probably be stretched on both sides. I feel like this could be probably a little bit more compressed, like they're really sniffing, like, what is that? I'm going to leave the jaw pretty much where it is at the moment, except that I'm going to sort of turn it a little bit. So it's, again, I'm following what we talked about before, or actually I think what Larissa might have talked about before, the line of action of the head. Now I'm giving her some nostrils here just because she's like, what? You know, like we could literally like put a little bit of tears under her eye here. I just love those fun little buns that you put on her head. They're so cool. You could make it sort of like she's squidging her shoulders up, like like she's actually in physical pain. Now you might not agree with eyes tearing up. But the thing is that the mask actually works for the mouth as well. You can actually do it so it's like, oh, there we go. I like that one a little better. Because the mouth can actually fit in the similar sort of thing. You know, all you need to do is just figure out where the chin is going to go, and then the mouth can kind of fit right above it in a kind of elastic band as well. Glasses. What? How funny would it be if they were slightly askew? Now it's a little. I know it's a little cockeyed, a little wonky, but you get the idea here. It's basically the idea is to try and push these shapes so that they look a little bit more. And you probably disagree with like how big I've made her chin and things like that. That's totally fine. But the idea is just to sort of show you an alternative, so you can sort of see where your character's features might lie, like so. But the idea is to try, you know, and you don't need to make her look like an old woman or anything like that. All these little searching lines and things like that. Get rid of all of them. Anyway, does that sort of help? When you use these drawers, am I using a computer mouse? I am not. I'm using a tablet. I'm using a. Here, let me stop sharing just for a quick sec. I'm using a digitizing tablet. In this case, it's a Cintiq by Wacom. No, it's not a computer mouse. Although I do know people that color entirely with with a mouse rather. This is not. This is with a digitizing tablet. I even have it on a little armature here so that I can move it around. To be honest with you, though, I tend not to use this as much as I use my my little tablet, my iPad. I tend to use that a little bit more, at least these days. Mainly just because I've found a bunch of really fun little shortcuts that I can use with the software I use there. Anyway, does this make sense to you guys? Pretty simple, right? It's as long as you, the main thing, what I want you guys to see here is that the first is that if you don't have a line of action going through your character's head, it's going to look a little bit static. Okay, even if you do have a you know an expression that's level with the camera, you know, or theatrical, as Larissa would say it. And then, you know, once you figure out what the line of action is, you know, what side is going to be squashed and what side is going to be stretched, then you can go in and map all your fun little features. Again, what you need to remember is that when you reduce everybody's face, it typically is going to be sort of like a little bag of flour. There's going to be a crease on one side, or you know, maybe it'll be on the front, or maybe it'll be on the back. But odds are it'll probably have some sort of bias where it is squashing on one side and stretching on the other, or it'll try, you know, or if it's like a shocked face, it'll be, you know, imagine like invisible hands at the bottom and the top, and it's being pulled, you know, little things like that. The bag of flour returns. Yeah, go get yourself a bag of flour. It'll help you draw your OCs. Okay, so next one real fast. Okay, so we have Darlena's character here. Now, the only thing I really want you to do, Darlena, here is again, is similar to what I said before. I want you to draw through your shapes just a little bit more. Um, let's see. Eden, which one should I draw over here? What do you think?
I think probably one that you could push a little bit more, maybe like this kind of like worried expression one.
Yeah, okay, that sounds good. All right, so I'm going to, let me reduce this a little bit.
Because she does seem like a very
She's a
like
very
dainty
emotional character.
character right now. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't maybe have as extreme emotions in her face. I haven't watched the show, so I'm not sure. So I'm just going off the expressions I see here. But I think it'd be fun to kind of see how far you could take that character's expression. Like what would be an extreme reaction for her? Like if she
Okay,
just
this is
got
going to
like
be an extreme.
she just got some upsetting news. The waiter just came and said, we might not have that. I'm going to go check.
And she is sad beyond reckoning. Okay, so yeah. All right, so here we have our bag of flour. Now, instead of having one side compressed and one side stretched, what we're going to do is we're going to grab the top of it and pull, and we're going to grab the bottom of it and pull. So the whole thing is kind of like a little bit more, a little stretch. It's not going to be like a complete, Ren and Stimpy, terror face or anything like that. It's not going to be SpongeBob. But the idea is to try and give it a little bit more exaggeration. The more exaggeration and the more simplification you give your characters, the easier it'll be for you to draw them. And it'll be easier for other people to draw them as well. And the whole point behind doing stuff like this is to keep it simple. Oh, no, we want to make them worried. They don't get mad. They get more worried, and then they, and that's how they express their worriedness, their anger, or distress, I should say. Now, I don't want to go too far into like describing like the epicanthal fold or things like monolids or anything like that, but because I feel like Darlena has done a beautiful job with this character, so I'm going to try and keep all the features that they have done about as fine as possible here. So that means I'm going to try and keep, you know what, let me try and move these features over. I don't think I did a very good job of mapping it. There we go, that's better. Now she's got a dainty little mouth. Remember, we're going to put the little rubber band that same thing we do for the like sort of like a mask for the eyes. We can do the exact same thing for the mouth. It's not quite aligned. Let me try and push that further. Now, really, all I did here was try and push a couple of the features of the face around. What I did was I made it look like the cheeks are kind of obscuring a bit of the bottom of the eye, and the way that that happens is through tilt of the head. That's it. It makes it look like the head is being tilted back. Oh, no ears. Also, I'm going to give the hair a little bit of oomph, make it look like she's sort of like being taken aback. They're out of nuggies. No. Everything comes back to nuggies. I kind of like the fact that she just has, that her nose is really just 2 lines. Now, if you, but the idea is if this is the stretched out version, you know, if she were a little bit less distressed, you know, her proportions would be a little bit rounder, like so. I'm hoping I'm getting the proportions right. Does this look okay to you, Darlena? But, you know, and the hair sort of suggests like they're being moved backward a little bit, like they're like, my nugs.
Yeah, don't be afraid of using the hair as like part of the expression. It doesn't always have to be like super extreme, but just even making it like show if she's kind of like, oh, it's like my hair kind of flipping back a little bit. It's just those little things that can really like push an expression. Yes, like Studio Ghibli.
Remember the Ghibli, yeah, exactly. Remember the Ghibli rule. If the hair isn't getting big, maybe your expression isn't as powerful as it needs to be. I'm gonna throw a little bit of tone in here in the hair just for funsies. There we go. All right. So you can sort of see this is about as far as I would push her, like her stretched expression. You know, again, if it were less extreme, it would be her head would be much more rounder or heart shaped, like an apple. Just kind of because I'm going by what's here and what you've already done. But I really like the idea that her nose is really just 2 lines. In fact, I would probably see if you can try and simplify everybody's nose that way. I think that would be kind of fun. Anyway, just a suggestion. Have some fun with this, regardless of what sort of critique we may give it.
Darlena says,
Okay.
yes, seeing this come to life was super helpful. I'll definitely keep the rubber band and mask tips in mind when I try again.
Yes, fantastic. All right, let me grab a screenshot of these before I move on to the next thing. This one too. What is that smell? I'm even now just seeing like little places I could continue to push this if I wanted to, like, you know, putting the lower lid of the eye just even further, like, it's just really just so shocked. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, cool. Thanks for your patience, guys. It is now 2:35. Let's get dangerous. That's a Darkwing Duck reference. Okay. So, We've talked a little bit about perspective. I think the last time we actually talked about composition, Larissa, I remember looking at some of your work from week 5, so that was a while ago. And you guys were using perspective, you were putting a character into it. It looked really quite cool. Yeah, what Eden just said here, for David, there is no tried and true rule regarding like how much expression is good. You just need to make sure that it looks consistent with the tone of your story, so that if you got one character that can pull like crazy Squidward faces or whatever, but the rest of the characters are a little bit more realistic, it might the odds of the people getting or of your audience getting confused, like does this person belong in the story, get heightened. So you want to make sure that everybody has around the same level of expression and squash and stretch. Anywho, so yeah, the last time we talked about composition was about week 5. It was mainly in regards to perspective and how to put a character into your into a composition and make it look like there are intersecting planes and things like that. This week we're going to talk a little bit about we're going to take a step back from that. It's less about like measurements and math and things like that, and a little bit more about applying a theory. Let me see if I can pull up some examples for you. There's a lot of really great ways to show people how to do strong compositional work. One of the best ways is to sort of show them tried and true ways to that other artists have done this in the past. One of my favorites is Andrew Loomis, and of course, and one of my very good friends, Luc Demarchelier, who I used to, who was one of my colleagues when I taught at the art school with him. Let me see if I can find one of the reasons why I tend to like this. The compositional exercise that we're going to be doing this week is you're going to be doing 6 sketches. And each sketch is going to have 4 different values. All right. There's going to be a black, there's going to be a white, there's going to be a light gray, and there's going to be a dark gray. And that's literally almost all that you're going to use. The point behind this, though, is to try and get you to sort of figure out how you can get me to focus where you want me to look in a simple little composition. Where can you put the star of the show? And the star of the show can be a character. It can be more than one character if you want, or it can be like the relationship between 2 characters. There's a lot of different ways to do this. One of the main ways we're going to do it, but the idea is that with only 4 values, you have to keep things simple and pretty direct. Let me show you a couple of examples. One of my favorite Disney sketch artists is Paul Felix. Now, Paul Felix was one of Larissa's instructors when she was at art school. And he's like this great big bodybuilding giant with who's incredibly gentle, incredibly sweet, and really, really good when it comes to getting people to focus on his art. He mostly just uses graphite, just uses pencil. And but he's really, really good at being specific and getting people to focus where he wants them to. Let me show you what I mean. This is a pencil drawing from Tarzan, the Disney animated film. One of my favorites from Disney, especially in the last 20, 30 years. So beautiful. And we tend to sort of Tarzan tends to get a little sort of, I don't know, I guess I think it's getting more noticed now because people are just dang, that guy from Genesis really went hard on the soundtrack. But it's true. Soundtrack is awesome, but the level of detail in the backgrounds is just extraordinary. David, it feels like an underpainting. It is technically. Yeah, this goes hard. Very, very true. It doesn't get enough hype. You're absolutely right. I love Tarzan. Um, what's really cool about this is, again, if you squint at this, you can tell that there's a very, very subtle, I mean, there's a lot of values in here, but to be honest with you, it's more about the contrast between the values. Kind of like the way that the likeness in a character design is more about the empty space in between the features. It's more about the contrast here between the foreground, the midground, and the background. Yeah, no, you're absolutely right, Tony. They looked at Tony Hawk a ton for Tarzan's fun little vine skidding movements. But the idea here is like there's a very clear foreground, midground, and background, and it's all about contrast. Let me see here. Who can I pick on? Well, Levi. Levi, would you mind telling me what is the star of the show of this picture?
To me, when I looking at this picture of the gorilla, but what really caught my attention was the sense of depth. Like it's that it looks where the waterfall and like the branches are starting to like descend and fade out. It looks like a literal vanishing point because everything is starting to be uniform.
Beautifully said. Well done, Levi. I couldn't have said it better myself. It literally, this is a part where Kala, the gorilla mother who adopts Tarzan, has heard a baby cry, and she goes across this ravine like it's nothing, right? Even though we are like, whoa, deep, she's heard a baby. She is on a mission, right? And it's like this one shot is blink and you miss it. It's literally like 5 seconds. But they wanted to demonstrate the fact that this is just, this ravine with the log and the vines going across it is just an obstacle in her way, and she literally couldn't care about it less. But yeah, it's about the relationship between the star of the show and the depth of the shot. It's for those of you that are unfamiliar with the movie. Tarzan spends more time like falling and climbing practically than he does almost anything else. The depth and height is a big motif in the film. Okay, here's another one. Sarah Steinberg. Who's the star of the show here? What's the first thing that grabs your eye?
The first thing that grabs my eye are the big eyes and the dark part of the crown on top of the big face.
Nailed it. You know why that is?
Contrast in size.
Contrast, and also because we as human beings are really, really selfish. We tend to always look for faces and stuff. So if there's a face in there, that's the first thing we'll look at. But Paul Felix does this intentionally. He puts a big light source down here at the bottom, or rather not at the bottom, but below the face to highlight it, to make it look really stark and really high contrast. To sort of basically to have fun with the exaggerated shapes that are taking place in the Emperor's city. Yeah, no, super, super strong work. This is again another film that the backgrounds and the story work tend to get sort of like overshadowed by the strength of the character, which isn't a bad thing. It's one of these things that really sort of jumps out at you. All right, here's a particularly strong one again from Tarzan. Brianna Young. What is the star of the show in this picture? To you.
Can you hear me? I'm thinking that gorilla in the center, isn't that his like faux dad, catches my eye first, like the contrast between him and Tarzan. That's where my eyes are going between those two.
Perfect. Oh my gosh, you did it. It's the contrast between him and Tarzan. Now, Kerchak up here, he's super high contrast. It's him against literally just a big ball of empty white paper, right? Paul could have put trees and rocks and stuff back there, couldn't be bothered. Why? Because it's not important. This is what is known as a vignette, when the focus of the image is literally in that center third. or center 2/3, I should say. And you kind of nailed it, because it's not just about Kerchak, even though he is definitely the first place you look. It's if you follow his eye down, you see that he's looking directly at Tarzan. And Tarzan and Kerchak, if you look at this picture closely, you realize that those two have the most detail. Their drawings are the most refined out of anything else in this image. All the gorillas, all the apes surrounding them are kind of gestural, kind of sketched in. Yeah, all the leading lines point between him and Tarzan. Everything about this shot is about the conflict between him and Kerchak. And all the apes and stuff like that, they're kind of just sort of like filler. They're there to sort of supply shadow and to sort of frame that conflict, that contrast. Even the rocks and the vines around the image, they're kind of just sketched in super duper fast. It does kind of make you give you a Renaissance vibe, right? But the idea is that it's about it. The focus is on the star of the picture, and everything else is just gravy. All right, here's another one. These two are a little tricky. Let me see. Vic, you want to take a stab at the top one? What's the first thing that your eye goes to?
Well, the first thing can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Sound great.
Well, the first thing my eye is drawn to is the top left, and then it just trails down to the mid bottom right.
That's beautiful, because
Yeah.
this is a panning shot, actually. This is like one of these story shots where it starts up here and ends down at the bottom. We're following the llamas as they're taken down into this center like courtyard or pavilion. It's Vic, you nailed it again. You guys are super good at this. This is great. Nehemiah, am I saying your name right?
Yes.
Fantastic. Where does your eye go to on the second picture, the one below it?
Oh, it goes immediately to the staircase in the crowd.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
The staircase in the crowd,
Right.
or the people
Okay,
walking down.
well, is there one image in particular that grabbed, or one part of that in particular that grabs your eye?
Your name and the phone number on the account.
I would say, are those like llamas behind it? Probably, I didn't see this at first, but the llamas.
Oh, that's okay. No, you kind of nailed it. It's the contrast right there. You've got these very heavily lit characters, the llamas, and I believe that's Cusco in the front, and he's like playing his panpipe, and everything behind him is in shadow. It's a really beautiful composition, because you've got, again, this foreground that's super blurry. It's obviously meant to be like out of focus, because we're looking in the midground or the background here at Cusco dancing down the staircase with the llamas behind him. And everybody's like, yeah, Cusco. It's so super duper great. It's a beautiful shot. But again, everything else besides the focal point is kind of just, it's just there. It's just gravy. It's there to frame the star of the show. And I want you guys to remember this, because these vignettes, and that's typically what these are. Vignette is literally just means like when the focal point is in the center 2/3 and everything else tends to be just sort of sketched in. That's kind of what I want you guys to think about when you're doing your compositional stuff today. Okay. So, Paul Felix, amazing artist. I love him so much. So great. Look at his Emperor's New Groove work. Look at his Tarzan work. Look at his stuff for Lilo and Stitch. He did almost all the backgrounds before they got watercolored. Just super duper beautiful work. Another thing behind most of those images is that you see that a lot of them are asymmetrical. The focal point is somewhere off of center. And I want you guys to remember that as well when you're doing your work. There's a term for that. It's called rabattement. If you like, I can put it onto the screen here for you. Oops. 1 second. Let me put a text blob in here. Now, rabattement is it's kind of like an academic term. Literally means squaring the rectangle. You look at a rectangle and you try and find the square within it. Or, and typically there's at least one, right? Because you can create a square from one side, you can create a square from the other. But artists have for hundreds of years used that term, rabattement, to create or to decide, or to help them decide really, where the focal point of their paintings or their drawings or their artwork is going to be placed. Here's an example. Okay, so this is, and that's rabattement, that's how you spell it. Okay, so this is Monet. Whoops. Or Manet, I'm sorry. And if you look at the image itself is a rectangle. But if you put a square inside of it, about 2/3 of the way across, you'll notice that that's where the artist chose to put that tree, not by accident. Okay, it's basically sort of like a simplified version of the golden mean. It's a way of finding a nice, appealing, off-center, asymmetrical place to place the focal point, the star of the show. Okay, here's another one. This one has sort of like a double effect of rabattement. Literally, you could square it from the right side, and that's where the figure has been placed. Or you could square it from the left side, and that's where the edge of the door is. And of course, the star of the show is neither. It's that easel with the canvas that's been, or rather the board on the canvas that's been turned away from us. Okay, both those, this is sort of like a backwards way of doing it, where you can use rabattement to sort of frame the star of the show instead of aligning it with the focal point itself. Oops. Now, it's not just artists that use rabattement. Cinematographers, especially ones that have been trained hey, come back here. That have been trained in, in like academic terms, like in France or in art school, things like that. They typically have a way of placing the square of the circle or the square of the rectangle and using that to sort of focus where the star of the show is going to be. In this case, this is from There Will Be Blood. And the star of the show here, or this particular shot anyway, is Daniel Day-Lewis. The shot begins with him turning around and facing the camera. And when he does so, he lines up perfectly with the square of the rectangle. Another way of doing it, if you go from the other way, is this, that further corner of the wall there. Again, it's like, why do I keep going back to Skyfall? It's they use that, both of those to kind of frame the star of the show, the conflict between him and Ciarán Hinds here. It's a really, really strong, very simple way of figuring out where the star of your show is going to be, or where the focal point is going to be. I keep using star of the show, but I just dig it. Here's another one. This is from Skyfall, the James Bond movie. Okay, you square the rectangle from one side, that's where his classic Aston Martin's going to be. You square the rectangle from the other, and that's pretty much where the deepest point of the valley is, and right in between is Mr. Bond. Nearly dead center, not quite, but everything else about the shot is so asymmetrical that it's really hard to sort of to realize that he is smack dab at 50% across the plate. Pretty crazy, right? Oh, dang it. Here we've got James Bond. Is he the star of the show? Not quite so much, because if we square the rectangle from one side, he's in the frame on one side, and on the other side we've got, well, the edge of Judi Dench's nose. Okay, she is nearly dead center here. So he basically, it's either the void of mist in the Scottish Valley or Northern English Valley, and then James on the other side. Same thing here. We got the stag. On the other side, we got the edge of Skyfall Manor back there. Pretty cool, right? It's just a way to keep the chore of figuring out where to put your focal point a little bit simpler. Boom. Now, it's not going to be perfect every single time, obviously, but the idea is to make it easier for you to figure out where to put the focal point. Now, of course, and we can't forget the greatest masterpiece of modern cinema. But even this uses rabattement. See? Boom. Almost perfectly aligned with the door there, or with the wall. Okay, and she moves out from behind it, sticks her head out. Ugh, Edward, He's like, "What's up, Spider Monkey?" Yeah, rabattement one side lines up with his face. The other side lines up with the with his shoulder, really. But you get the idea. Yes, the Spider Monkey. Lots of films use this. More often than not, what you'll notice is that the cinematographer is probably European, if they do a lot of this, mainly because this is really hammered into into cinematographers and art school students in European schools, particularly French schools. So like Roger Deakins, if you watch any of the Coen Brothers films, or if you watch like the most recent Blade Runner, or like Goldfinch, that's another one. It's really easy to spot when the cinematographer uses rabattement, and there's again tons and tons of examples for you to use if you want to. Any questions so far? It's about 3 o'clock. Pretty clear? Okay. Rabattement is not something you have to use. It's there for you to use it if it to make it easier. Do they use it like every scene? Not really. And they can use it in different ways. Sometimes it aligns with the star of the show. Sometimes it aligns with everything but the star of the show. It frames it. It typically is there to help things, to make things easier. If somebody will either walk away from one side to the other, and they'll be at like about 2/3 of the way either way, which typically means like squaring the rectangle. But it's not a rule, because what are rules for? For breaking, right? So if you can find a film that follows it pretty well, odds are there'll be some shots in there that are completely errant and don't follow it at all. But it's there to make things easier. That's all. Let's see if I can find some more examples here of other stuff that I wanted to show you. Oh, Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, this is a really, really great one. You're gonna love this. So Rabbit Mom, we talked a little bit about that. Now we're going to talk about, so one of the other things so where do I put stuff in my picture? Rabbit Mom can help, right? Okay, that's great, but what do I make dark? What do I make light? What do I make medium? If I'm only using 4 values, or at about 4 values, give or take, how do I arrange them? Especially if I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to paint yet or what I'm going to draw. Well, for that, we have another fun little form called the windmill principle. Who here has heard of that? Brianna? Anybody else? Show of hands. Tap the little, anybody? No one except for Brianna. Brianna, what is the windmill principle? Learn us.
I just remembered from what was that, visual storytelling course, or was it visual storytelling? I forget.
It was visual storytelling.
Yeah. Oh gosh, now I'm on the spot. I forget. You should have.
It's when you go
I can
into a
remember the
windmill
and going like it
and
was
the
like
principal
every
of your
other.
high school.
Yes, they hang their underwear from the top. No,
That's it.
wasn't it? Oh gosh, now I completely blanked. Wasn't it with the colors and it was like using the every other, like the light and dark contrast? I just remember the image that you showed, and it was like light and then dark and then light and then dark.
That's it.
Okay.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
No, you got
Now
it.
you can use it for color. Brianna, Nux, you did a great job. C plus, C plus. So basically, yeah, you can use it for colors as we did in visual storytelling, and we probably will be using it as if we decide to take some of these sketches that we're going to be making this week and kind of refine them. Just read your comments. Thank you. Would it be possible for Caleb to draw a character from Worm's Eye View? Yes, I'd love to. The windmill principle makes it easier for you to figure out how to stagger your values. Okay, and let me show you some fun examples of this. Boom, 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 boom. Okay. Now I don't want to confuse anybody, so I'm going to try and get these nice and squared away before we. There we go. Oops. Yeah, that's right. Okay, so the windmill principle. This is the painting. It was given the name the windmill principle by James Gurney, who is just a super duper fantastic art instructor and illustrator and painter. And the way that he described it, he used this particular painting to describe why it's called the windmill principle. Because this painting, just that one little spot of the windmill, describes how to stagger your values. It's really quite simple. Okay, there's only really 4 ways you can do it. So, so basically when you're creating an illustration and you feel a little bit lost, you're like, oh, I don't know what to do next. Remember, all you need to do next is one of these 4 things. You can put light against dark, like this, like the top, what do you call these again? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this. The top sail, I guess, of the windmill. The value of that windmill, that sail is light against dark. You can do light against light, like that sail. You can put dark against light, like that sail. Or you can put dark against dark. And that's it. Really quite simple. There's only 4 ways to stagger your values. And if you keep that in mind, you can't get lost. It's a lot harder for you to get lost, let me put it that way. And it's easier for you to remember how to pull focus to where you want the audience to look. Okay, the light against light is low contrast. Dark against dark, again, low contrast. It kind of, you sort of lose them when you put competing values against another competing value. But when you put light against dark, your eye goes to it. Okay, if you put dark against light, your eye goes to that. Remember Kerchak in the Tarzan picture. Okay, or remember the scene where where Cusco is dancing down the stairs, right? He's in light, everything behind him is dark. And as a result, he's sort of like in a spotlight. We immediately go to where he is. He's the star of the show. Now, we've got a couple beautiful examples by Anders Zorn to sort of show you a couple more examples of how this works. The windmill principle, okay? So remember, it's either dark against dark, light against light, dark against light, or light against dark. So number one, okay, so we've got the light is catching this sleeve, and directly behind it, we see sort of like, I want to say like maybe perhaps a sack, you know, the clutch of vegetables, what have you. But this is definitely light against light. You know, your eye doesn't immediately go to that sleeve. And as a result, so there's less contrast, and you can sort of, it's part of that vignette thing that we talked about before. It's more gestural, right? Two, we've got light against dark. You know, so the thing that's light is in front of the thing that's dark. That's high contrast. So our eye could go to that. Okay, number three, we've got dark against dark. You know, this is the side of this, I want to say it's a peasant, right? Where the shadow is sort of catching, the arms in shadow, but the cornice, this little area behind her, is also in shadow. And as a result, there's no outline, there's no, you know, there's very little, it's a little cooler maybe in color temperature, but the values, if you squint, you kind of lose that, outline. So that's dark against dark, not immediately where your eye goes. Whoops. Dumb and stupid. Sorry about that. Apologize for my language. And then, of course, we have down here at the bottom, we've got dark against light, which is the edge of her skirt against what appears to be like a bench or a pew, perhaps. And that's it. You got light against light, light against dark, dark against dark, and then dark against light. And every single one of those is designed to sort of steer your eye. Here's another one. Okay, we've got the beautiful rim light, I love rim light, at the top of the horse's mane here, light against light. We've got this beautiful sort of like nimbus on the horse's flank, which is definitely light against dark. And then we've got this sort of lovely little mess. It's kind of, it's a big muddy clump of green and yellow and brown. It's basically where the shadow of the horse's feet, or the horse's legs rather, kind of blend and mush into the vegetation that they're standing on. And it's dark against dark. And then we've got the horse's beautiful dark muzzle against the golden, what appears to be sort of like this, I want to say this, this sort of like a wash, you know, this sort of dirt mound in the background, and that's dark against light. Remember this, it's a very simple way of steering the eye around. And of course, way back in the distance, you see these two kids that are looking at the horses and stuff. There's a lot of high contrast there, but you kind of have to search for it. It's like the first thing you look at is the horses. I wouldn't call them the star of the show by any stretch. Now there are other examples that I have here, some watercolors by Sargent. a bunch of paintings by Rapine. But to be honest with you, they all sort of show you the exact same principle. You know, dark against light, light against dark, light against light, or dark against dark. And the whole idea is to try and keep things simple so you know where to look. Or so that you, as the artist, can tell the audience where to look. It's probably a better way of putting it. Yeah, it's like complementary colors, but in this case, we're just using black and white. We're just using black, white, and shades of gray. It's a, oh, thank you very much. It's literally just there to sort of help you figure out where to steer the eye. And that's it. Now, before I continue, did Larissa mention informal subdivision in week 5? Basically where you were making that grid of like diagonals and vertical and horizontal lines.
I don't think we went over that in this class.
Okay. All right. Well, let me do a quick example here, so you guys can sort of see what I'm talking about as far as like informal subdivision. Because I feel like it's easier if I show you, and then I can just I can drop the examples into the resources file here, so you can check that out. Oh, before I do though, I wanted to show you guys this. This is a beautiful example. These are background sketches from the animated film Balto. Again, these were done by my colleague Luc de Marchelier. Literally, they're just marker comps, right? But you can tell exactly where you're meant to look, even though the values here are really quite simple. I mean, there's quite a lot of compositional stuff going on here. For one thing, every single one of these has rabattement in it. But more importantly, what's even better is that they have very, very simple value structure. And it's always light against dark against light against dark, or dark against dark, light against light, or dark against light. Always try to remember to stagger your values if you want to figure out where where you want to steer the characters, or where you want to steer the audience's eye. This is kind of how Andrew Loomis explains it. Not quite so helpful. It's a lot easier to sort of show you with more visual examples like these. These are all in the resources folder, by the way. So you can go back and check these out whenever you like. Okay, so let me see here. I want to try and do an example before. Well, I don't know. Should I show them the Andrew Loomis examples first, so that maybe it's a little bit clearer, or should I just do the demo, Eden? What do you think? You've done this before. What makes more sense to you?
I think
It's kind of
probably
tricky.
seeing, it is really complicated at first, but I think seeing examples and then the demo is probably better.
Okay, let's do that first then. Let's see.
If some of you were in our former classes, I know we've talked about this before, the informal subdivision. But I'm pretty sure we didn't go over it in this. We did talk about composition with Larissa, though.
That is true. How do I play this? Is there a way for me to do this? Ah, here we go. I'll just do this. Check that out. Boom. Okay, so informal subdivision. Man, that's a mouthful. But the idea is, again, this is another sort of fun, nifty trick, a form, if you will, that you can use to simplify how to begin your composition. Some of the pitfalls that that artists, we as artists tend to trip up all the time when doing is we tend to put details too close to the edge, or we tend to create tangents where objects are a little too close to each other, touching, or where they should be a little bit further apart. And this is a really fun. Well, it's a little complicated, but once you get the hang of it, you use it all the time in order to begin your compositions. I use this every single time I begin anything, from like a book cover to an illustration to concept art sometimes to story art. The whole idea is to try and put the focus of your illustration into that center 2/3. Okay. So we begin. You don't need to take notes. This is all going to be on the video, and I'm going to be doing a demo of this in just a few minutes. So if you find your brain pulsing inside your skull, because you're just like, what is going on here? Don't fret. All right, so you begin with your sheet of paper, your file size, your aspect ratio, whatever it is you're working with, and you create a vertical line anywhere but dead center. Literally anywhere, okay? It just can't be center. Then you draw a line from one corner to the diametrically opposite corner, right? A diagonal line. Where the two intersect, that's where you create a horizontal line. So after these 3 steps, you'll have something that looks similar to this. You're like, Caleb, how does this turn into a composition? And I say, Darlena, hold your horses. Isabella, hold her horses. Isabella's like, horses are held. Done. Okay. Then what you do is you create another single diagonal to any rectangle. Now, if we go back, we can see, oh my gosh, there's like 4, 5, 6 new rectangles there. Well, any one of those is good for creating more diagonals. All right, so here what Loomis has done here is he's created 2 diagonals that go from left to right and 2 diagonals that go from right to left. Right? And they go from one edge of the picture to the opposite edge, or to a different edge, I should say, not the opposite. Next, you create some more, you put in 2 more, in this case, 2 more horizontals, right? Again, at any intersection, just like the one before. That's the way that this kind of works. What you're doing is you're creating a group of intersecting lines that, and the more you put in there, the more you realize that they tend to sort of gather around the edge of the picture, but not at the edge of the picture, not at it. They tend to sort of congregate and create sort of like this little web around, like surrounding like that last outer third of the picture plane. All right, so by the time you've created 5 horizontals, 5 verticals, 5 diagonals going one way and 5 diagonals going the opposite way, what you'll end up having is a group of really, really fun and really unique intersecting lines that can help sort of steer your subject to figure out where you want to place certain things. And the closer you stick to those intersections, the more you can realize that A, your chances of creating tangents are, again, much more limited. And B, your chances of putting details at the edge of that picture plane are much more limited. Can everybody see what I'm doing? Darlene says no.
I see your,
Oh, you guys?
I see your screen with a lady on it.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh, you see the screen with the lady on it. Okay, great.
Now I see a
Well,
screen
as long
with
as
a whole
everybody-
bunch of thumbnails.
All right, great. Well, these are all different informal subdivisions. All right. Now, but the thing is, you don't need to use different informal subdivisions. Sometimes you can create different images using the same one. The whole idea is that the divisions are there to sort of suggest where to put things. Again, if you look at it at each one of these, the subject is just a little bit off center. There aren't any details that intersect the edge or anything like that. It's really quite an elegant way of creating visual interest and a nicely sort of choreographed composition. Now, that's a lot. I understand. It's Alexander's like, yes. But the idea is that it's there to keep things simple. These will also, yes, these will be in the resources after, correct. So let me do a quick demonstration. And I'm going to double down on this and create a worm's eye view of a character at the same time, so that Rosanna has a fun, different way of looking at thug life. Yes, that's how I roll. I like to make things
Caleb?
difficult for myself.
I'm sorry.
Yes.
It's me, David. Can I ask you a really quick question?
Certainly.
So I have the book, and I'm looking through because I'm in the section you're talking about, the informal, subdivision. Yeah. And he's talking about how, like, he says on like the second page with the little gnomes, he's like, I only had an idea, he wrote, of showing a lot of little gnomes playing with a pen. And he said he had no idea how to arrange them. So you're saying that you come up with an idea, then you use the subdivision first, then with your idea, you kind of put it in, right? That's what you're saying? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly it. It helps you, it can help sort of like steer the chaos of an otherwise unwieldy scene.
Okay.
But let me show you how, let me show you what I mean by that. Let me see here if I can create a new image. Alessandra, do you want to do this vertically or do you want to do it horizontally? You pick.
Vertically?
Vertically. Okay, so it's like going to be like a poster, right?
Okay.
Or like a book cover or something fun like that. All right. Let's do this. It's going to be fun. Now, if you guys get lost, please throw your hands up. Let me know if you guys are feel that if I'm going too fast. And Eden, if you can, please do stop me if people have questions, okay?
Will do.
All right. So I think we're going to have plenty of time to get this underway. So we've got a blank piece of paper, for example. All right. So first off, what does Andrew Loomis say? We need to start with a vertical line anywhere other than down the middle. Okay. So let's start on the left. Okay. And that's all we need to start with first. Then we create a diagonal line from one corner to the next. That's kind of heavy. Let me try a little bit. There we go. That's better. So that's 2. And where they intersect, right here, I'm going to create a horizontal line. Now we've got like 8 different rectangles now. So let's start creating a couple of diagonals. So and remember, they need to start at one edge and end at another edge. So, and we want to try and stay away from symmetry. So let's try and start here and here. And we'll go from there to there. All right, so now we've got a bunch more intersections. Okay, so we've got one more or less dead center here. And then we've got another one right here. Very good. Let's create two going the opposite way. Let's do one from here to here. And another one from the top. Actually, you know what? Let's just make a smaller one. There too. There. All right, a whole bunch more intersections. That's awesome. So let's create a couple of horizontal lines. Let's do one right here. Let's do one close to the edge. I tend to stick with making lines. I don't know. I try to make them. There is a design to this. I try to make them around that that outer third, just to sort of keep things kind of smooth. 1, 2, 3. One more. Let's see. Where's another intersection I can use? Oh, here's one. Whoa. 4. So we got 4 horizontals. We got 4 verticals. We've got 1, 2, 3 diagonals from one direction and 1, 2, 3 diagonals in the opposite direction. Let's do a couple more so that we have 5 horizontals, 5 verticals, and 5 diagonals in each direction. So let's do just one more horizontal. There's 5. Let's do one more. There's 5 verticals. 2, 3. I love counting.
So I just want to make sure that I said this right. So you're doing
Sure.
5, 5, 5 for your
Yeah.
lines, but
5, 5, 5.
technically you can do as many as you want, right? 5
Yeah.
you think is just kind of a good number.
I feel like, well, if you do more than 5, I kind of can get lost sometimes. It tends
Yeah,
to
it
look
gets a
like
little
bird's
messy.
nest. Yeah. So 1, 2, 3. 4.
Levi, 5 lines. So how Caleb's doing these intersecting lines, he's making sure there's 5. How did you do it? Did you just do it
So
by the
5 vertical. Yeah, I'm
5
just counting. 5 vertical, 5 horizontal, 5 diagonal going from left to right, and 5 diagonal going from right to left. That's it. Sloping from left to right. That's what I should say. So yeah. So here's 1, 2, 3, 4. Do I need one more? Nope, I got 5 right there. That's 5. So I'm going to do one more. So 1, 2, 3. I need 2 more of those. So I'm going to do. Oh, I gave you one. And one more. Let's see. No, that's fine. That's good. Four. Last one. It can really, and they can go almost anywhere. 5. They're literally there just to help guide you along. Okay, so it looks like a mess, doesn't it? But believe me, there is a method to this. There is a reason why we do this. I'm going to fill these up with red first so that I can sort of focus on something else. And then I'm going to lock that layer. So somebody wanted to see a worm's eye view of a character. You don't have to have a consistent number of each. It's just there to keep things from getting too messy. Let me see. What can we do to make things fun, but at the same time a little complicated? Okay, tell you what. I'm going to use my fun character that we talked about last time. It's my my OC. Okay, so it's going to be a worm's eye view, which means the vanishing point is going to be like way down here. There's the There's the horizon line. Top of her head is going to be like up here, maybe like aligned with these two lines right here. Looks about right. It's kind of symmetrical. You know what? Let's not make it symmetrical. Let's make it a little bit trickier. Let's put her just off like this. All right, so, and if you want to get fun with your grids or what have you, you can do something like this. Just to make things, you know, if you wanted to get specific with your perspective. So what we can do is move this down here, and I can go to Image, Transform, and I think it's Skew. No, that's not it. Perspective, that's the one. Right. So and then we'll do the exact same thing with this one. Oops. Let's try this again. Transform, perspective. Oh no. Okay. All right, so like basically just like so. And all right, so there's my vanishing point. Worm's eye view. Okay, so we got she's a kid. Vanishing, the top vanishing point is going to be way up there somewhere. Maybe probably like off the sheet itself. I'm going to align one sleeve of her arm with this little line there. One elbow will be there. Remember, if it's worm's eye view, you'll be looking up at them. Wrong layer. Idiot. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, you absolutely could use them for other things later on. Now remember that the closer that things get to us, the bigger things get. And the further away things are, the more spherical they tend to become. Or rather, the planes tend to widen a little bit. Get a fun little cockeyed look to her. Still feel like it's a little, she's a little long. Let me try, there we go, that's better. But I'm using the grid, the informal subdivision grid, to sort of kind of guide my hand a little bit so that I know where to go next. So if I wanted to put a friend of hers, like over her shoulder, well, I could start by putting the head up here, sort of suggesting that they're a little bit taller. Yes, it always makes them look imposing, or that they are intimidating, or even, especially if, sort of like if it's a juxtaposition like this, where it's funny, because she's absolutely the shortest kid you've ever met. She's the shrimpiest one of her little gang of space nerds. But remember, everything has to point back towards the horizon, even if the... Actually, you know what? I'm kind of playing a little fast and loose there. Let me try something else here. So it's a little bit more in line with our formal subdivision grid. Sorry, it's been like, been working on this for 15 minutes and I feel like it's going a little long. So I hope you guys can forgive me. got glasses, so we know he's a nerd. A little bit. There we go. It's actually the informal subdivision is actually helping a lot with this, because it's like it's helping to sort of steer again my lines so that I know where to begin things, where to end things.
We have a sneaky visitor, Caleb.
A sneaky visitor sneaking. Who's this?
It may or may not be.
It's me.
No. I mean, yay! So as you can tell, Larissa, I'm doing informal subdivision.
I love it.
I'm doing a worm's eye view of some characters.
Cape. Is
as
this
well.
Cape Canaveral? Your Cape Canaveral characters?
Well, it is.
Mhm.
And I am trying to show like how you can use informal subdivision to sort of like make the whole thing easier, as far as like where to put things, where to establish, where things intersect.
Mhm. I love it.
Now
It's
the
like a
foreground-
puzzle piece. I always look at informal subdivision as like a puzzle piece or jigsaw puzzle way of figuring out where to put things at in your composition in terms of just shapes, rather than like, oh, this is where my person needs to go, or this is where this subject needs to go. It's like, well, something needs to go here. What could it be? And what can I make this into? I think this is looking really cool.
Thank you. Now, as far as the rest of the assignment, here, let me see if I can try and help you out with this. I'm going to, well, first off, I'm going to try and put a little bit of a background in here. And I'm going to use this as well to sort of sort out the background. Let's put a
Building.
Let's put like a
mountain.
Well, yeah, let's put a
UFO.
Let's put a yes, all those things. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to. I don't have to do it exactly along to those lines, but we'll do something like that. I'm going to do like a diner, a 50s diner sign over here. Okay, again, so I'm going to try and use the informal subdivision to kind of steer my hand a little bit. Again, to sort of like solve the puzzle, or to try and figure out where the puzzle pieces are going to go. All right, so it's going to be.
So what you guys are seeing, you guys are all excited about watching this process. This is problem solving. This is creative problem solving at its finest. And the process is it's like it's a behind the scenes you know, kind of look at how something is made, which is really fun to see the process of something being made and the decisions where you say, oh, well, I want to do this. And then we say, no, well, maybe I got to do this instead, or changing it up. So I'm just coming in here to, I'm just coming here in here to say what's going on. And Caleb's doing all the hard work.
That's it.
I think what's nice about informal subdivision too is sometimes it pushes me to have ideas I feel like I wouldn't have had without it.
Absolutely.
Like how Caleb just started this off as this crazy worm's eye view of the kids and that like really nice kind of pointed composition. It's like I wouldn't have thought about doing that.
Yeah.
The lines were there to kind of show me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it definitely makes you think in ways that you wouldn't typically do. And that's the problem, or not the problem, but that's the fun part about using informal subdivision is it introduces you to possibilities that you wouldn't have thought of before. Like we all have this framework of visual vocabulary that we understand. And this pushes you to go outside of that and solve these problems in different ways you wouldn't have thought of.
Yes, exactly that.
Jody says it seems as the lines also help with the actual perspective. Well, you know, you do have to understand what the perspective is in order to utilize the lines so that you can use perspective, you know, and that's the thing. Caleb has an understanding of three-dimensional perspective, so he understands
a very basic one.
Yeah, but that's the thing is even if you didn't have an understanding of perspective, you could still use these guidelines to help you create, let's see, you know, there needs to be something up here. Maybe it's not it could be organic things, you know, like let's say he didn't use a sign and he used like clouds and
trees.
In the trees. You know, then it would, and that's what I always do is I fill the background with clouds, trees, and mountains. And that's why I like doing outside scenes, because it's totally organic and there's no rule to it. You know, you could move mountains. That's what I was telling Mira from the Children's Book Academy when I had helped her with her. I was giving her mentorship in something that she was doing. And I was saying, you can move mountains. This is the power of an illustrator, right?
It truly is an enormous amount of power. So I fudged that. I'm very sorry. I cheated. I used the
it's not cheating.
I used the Photoshop tool to sort of make it
Totally,
but to be honest with you, it actually kind of looks the exact same.
No, it doesn't. It's a little higher than your subdivision line was, and it's triangulating with your characters.
Right. Really cool. Okay, so I've got 10 minutes left. What I want to do now is, all right, before I do anything else, I want to put in my values. So let's okay, so here's my line art, or my sketch, I should say. I'll just label that as sketch. Here's my informal subdivision. I'll just call that IF. And then I'll put my values. Okay. Now, when it comes to doing values, especially if you're doing a vignette, one of the best things that I've discovered is to start by just picking a really sort of, well, first off, you need to figure out your values. So we're doing we're doing white, right? We're doing black. Okay. And then we're going to pick, oh, that's right. I can do this. I can do a 30%, a 30% gray, and then a 60% gray. Stupid. All right, so I'm going to use just these 4 values. That's it. All right, so first off, what I like to do is to create some sort of vignette where I've got shadow around the edges. Now, you may be like, well, why? I'm like, well, to be honest with you, because it immediately makes it look like there's some kind of, I don't know, some kind of illusion of depth. It looks as though there is you know, like it's an old photograph, for example. So I want to try and figure out where I'm going to put the darks and, you know, the black. Well, first off, let me see if I can start with these two mediums here. I'll just build it up from there. Set this to multiply.
Now you already understand what the values are of all of these characters. So you're just going to be plotting those out right now, right?
Well, yeah, but if you didn't, you could use this to solve that problem yourself. You could say, okay, well, if this guy's hair is light and he's going to be standing in front of something, well, the thing behind him needs to be dark. If that is, you know, if I want to call attention to him. If the character's sort of native value is lighter, then the thing behind them should probably be dark. Again, we're just using black and white for this example here. And I'm going to try and I'm just using, it's a 100% opacity. I can immediately start to see where some problems are arriving because we've got too much competition going between some values.
Caleb, because we are at 3:53, will you explain the assignment?
Certainly. The idea is to create 6 sketches where you are just 6 basic thumbnails, basically, where you are going to create, you're going to use informal subdivision to create 6 different compositions. I don't want you guys to spend more than like half an hour on these. They need to be thumbnails, so sketchy, okay?
More than half an hour each, right?
More than half an hour each, right? Sorry about that. But the idea is to spend, you know, you just need to do 6, and you need to make them, you know, sketchy, but at the same time clear enough so that we can see what's going on.
And tonal values too?
Yeah, but the idea is just 4 tonal values. So light, so white, black, light gray, dark gray. That's it. And if you can, you can use markers, you can use pens, you can use ballpoints. I've done this with ballpoint, where it's just like you do like one pass where it's like more or less just sort of like white, or just like, you know, the lines, for example, and then you do another pass where it's the medium gray, or the light gray rather. Then you do another pass where it's the dark gray, and then finally you do another pass where it's as close to black as you can.
May I offer a suggestion for our students too?
See?
In this assignment, make sure that you're going to do it sketchy so that it's clear, right? So you're clarifying your shapes, and make sure that your tonal values are clear too. Don't get too rendery and blendy.
No.
between your values, all right? Make sure that there is a really strong delineation between your white, black, light gray, and dark gray. And try to think in terms of shapes rather than, you know, spatial, like tonal values or rendering, and really plan to block it out. And so that's what Caleb is doing. Make sure that it's really clear. So the idea is that you're trying to build up something that's clear for your next pass, that you can use to choose which of the thumbnails you want to use for your final rendered illustration.
That's it. Oh no, please don't crash on me.
No, don't.
Oh, thank you, spinning wheel. All right, anyway. So yeah, that's the idea. And we've got some examples. I showed you guys Luke's beautiful examples from Balto. But the only other thing I really want you guys to try and do is to incorporate some kind of character in there. That's it. So yeah, try and do, it's going to be sort of like a little world building exercise if you want. But the idea is to try and put something in there that has a character. You know, just even if it's just for scale, you know, just to sort of show what kind of stuff is going on in your world.
So David Steenblock was saying if he does this traditionally, he might draw the informal subdivision on a separate sheet of paper, then use a light box to draw over it. You totally can do that. Or you can, you know, just do it on the same page. Really, I mean, it's a sketch. It's not a formal final drawing. So, you know, you don't have to do that. If you don't want to, you can really just keep it on the same sheet.
Yeah, you absolutely can. The trick is just not to stress too much about this. You know, let's play around with it, but don't spend a ton of time on it. The idea is to try and keep it simple. To try and you know, play around with value. The idea is trying to sort of show what you can do with some limited tools, and the informal subdivision is there just to try and to help you. It's there to, you know, provide a little bit of guidance if you need it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of it.
All right, before we let you guys go, I just wanted to say make a quick request. I had mentioned this in the Discord server. If you guys aren't in the Discord server, you can pop in there. On the general channel, I was asking for feedback in response to a few questions that I had posed. So I'm just trying to see what you guys think of the classes that you've taken so far, and if you can provide your thoughts on that, would be greatly appreciated. And then also, because it's Discord and I won't necessarily know your actual first and last name because you'll be using your Discord name, if you could also please write your name along that. I'm cutting and pasting those, and I'm going to be utilizing those to, you know, move forward with our schedule and publishing, you know, some of the testimonials and things like that. So on the website. And I appreciate that. And so does Caleb, and so does Eden, because that'll let us know what we're doing, how it's being received. And okay, so you want the link for the Discord chat again? Okay.
Yeah, I can link it, but Marissa, do you think there's a way that maybe you could email it for people
Yes.
currently taking it? Just because I know some people never.
Some people don't go on the Discord. Yeah, okay, yeah, I will absolutely do that.
Guys, look at my fun picture.
Oh my God.
Guys, hey guys. Nobody's looking at my fun picture.
No, we're all looking at, are you kidding me? That's all we're doing is looking at your fun picture.
Yay. Anyway. Okay, cool. Well, so this is a pretty, whatever. Okay, so I'm going to stop sharing now.
That is amazing. Caleb.
You guys are amazing. Thank you guys so much for letting me play around with this. Yeah, worm's eye view. It could actually be. I could actually push the perspective on that a little bit more, but you get the idea. So yeah, I'll drop this into the Discord as well and into the resources file. Since somebody mentioned storyboards, I went ahead and I popped a really fun PDF from an artist by the name of, oh gosh, where did it go? Week 8. Oh my gosh, guys, we're at week 8. This makes me sad.
That's
It's not me,
okay.
but it's by Jim Mortensen. And I also put in something there by Grizz and Norm to sort of help you figure out, types of shots. And it's basically, it's a document called Storyboarding Tips and Tricks. And the one from Grizz and Norm is I just grabbed it from their Tumblr. It's basically types of shots and what they say. So, and I also put the image in there that Luke did from Balto, so you guys can have a chance to look at that as well. There's lots of different things you can look at. I'll actually put the rabattement, sorry, I should say.
Rabattement.
Rabattement document let me drop the rabattement. Thank you very much, Sarah. I'll go ahead and drop that in there as well. So I'll stop talking. Great job, guys.
All right. Thank you, Caleb. Thank you so much. And I'll see you guys. We will see you next week. And anything else? Any questions? No?
Oh, I don't think I'm going to be here next week. Am I?
No. You're
Nope,
going to
I'm
be
not.
here. You're going to be here for a little bit. I forgot to ask you that. If you could be here for a little bit. We'll talk about it later.
Okay.
Okay. All right, guys. Have a great one.
Great job, everybody.
Great job on the expressions. Super excited to see what you do.
Yeah. Dang, you guys crushed it. Super cool.
Caleb, can you come for the first half? Or not the first half, but like first. Hold on.
I think so.